Welcome to the orientation for Portland Community College's Professional Pilot Program. There are several desired outcomes we would like to accomplish in this orientation. First, we would like you to gain a basic awareness of the overall career of an airplane or helicopter pilot, and how each step in the process contributes to furthering your career. Second, we would like you to gain a basic understanding of the requirements for PCC's Associate of Applied Science degree in Aviation Science, be able to identify college advising resources, and gain an understanding of how to apply for admission to PCC. We will discuss specifics of PCC's Aviation Science degree program, and you should gain enough information to help you decide whether PCC's Aviation Science program is right for you. If you choose to apply for admission to PCC's Aviation Science program, you will know all the steps you'll need to complete in order to be admitted. Finally, you'll gain an understanding of what your options for a four-year degree are after completing your associate's degree at PCC. Options we will talk about here include transferring to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, the Oregon Institute of Technology, Southern Oregon University, or Multnomah University to complete additional requirements for a bachelor's degree. We'll start out by giving an overview of the pilot career for both airplane and helicopter pilots. By the end of your career, you might find yourself employed as a pilot for a major airline or flying a heavy lift helicopter. As a major airline pilot, you could expect to be flying large jets with 100 to 200 passengers or more, such as a Boeing 747 or Airbus A320. Companies such as United or Delta fly passengers all over the United States and all over the world. There are typically two pilots in an airline cockpit, the first officer and the captain. Most pilots start out as a first officer and move up into a captain position after a few years. As a first officer at a major airline, you could expect to start out at a salary of around $40,000 per year, but that increases rapidly after a few years to around $90,000. As a captain at a major airline, you could expect to start out at a salary of about $130,000, and your salary would increase steadily. The pay example above is from Delta Airlines. It is based on flying 65 hours per month, although you work far more hours than that. Your schedule as a major airline pilot would typically be based on a series of trips in any given week. A trip could be just flying during the day and returning home at night, or it could mean being away from home for 1 to 4 nights or more. During the time you're on a trip, you aren't flying the whole time. Some of the time would be spent doing flight planning, or a pre-flight inspection of the airplane, or just going back and forth to your hotel to sleep for the night. You bid every month or so on a schedule that has a variety of trips, and your schedule could change from month to month. As your seniority increased, meaning you've been employed by the airline for a longer time, you would likely get the opportunity to pick from the better schedule options. As a high-end helicopter pilot, you could expect to be flying larger helicopters with the capacity to carry up to 20 passengers, or lift tens of thousands of pounds, such as the Columbia 234 Chinook or the Sikorsky S-92. Companies such as Columbia Helicopters and Petroleum Helicopters use helicopters like these to carry passengers and cargo all over the United States and all over the world. There can be 1 or 2 pilots in the cockpit of these large helicopters. If the helicopter requires a 2-pilot crew, you might start out as the second in command and move up into a captain position after a few years. Salaries for helicopter pilots vary widely from company to company, and although the starting wages are typically higher than they are for airplane pilots, the top of the salary range is lower than you would find at a major airline. Pilots who fly the high-end helicopters at Petroleum Helicopters could expect to start out at a salary of around $55,000 to $60,000. That increases steadily the longer you've been with the company, and you would eventually top out at around $75,000. Your schedule as a high-end helicopter pilot would often be something like 1 week on, 1 week off, or 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, although some companies have schedules of working every other month, or only working for 6 months out of the year. This is just an example from one company. The average high-end helicopter pilot could make up to around $120,000 per year. The requirements to become a major airline pilot or high-end helicopter pilot vary depending on the company. Most jobs require thousands of flight hours, sometimes tens of thousands of flight hours, and some experience flying aircraft with turbine engines. For most airplane jobs, a 4-year degree is required. A good safe flying and driving record is required for jobs at this point. How can you accumulate all that experience? Most pilots work as a regional airline pilot or a light utility helicopter pilot. As an airplane pilot flying for a regional airline, you might be flying a smaller jet with 50 to 100 passengers, such as an Embraer regional jet or Bombardier CRJ 700. Companies such as ExpressJet or United Express fly passengers shorter distances than a major airline. This could be from Portland to Seattle and back, or up and down the West Coast. As a regional airline pilot, you might also be flying a turboprop airplane, such as the Bombardier Q400 or the Embraer E120. These airplanes have a capacity of 30 to 100 passengers and are used more on shorter distance flights by companies such as SkyWest Airlines or Horizon Air. The pay at a regional airline is a bit lower than at a major airline. Most pilots start out as a first officer and move up into a captain position after a few years. As a first officer at a regional airline, you could expect to start out at a salary of about $30,000 per year, and that tops out at around $45,000 per year. As a captain at a major airline, at a regional airline, you could expect to start out at a salary of about $65,000, and your salary would increase steadily from there. Schedules for regional airline pilots are similar to major airline pilots. As a light utility helicopter pilot, you could expect to be flying smaller turbine engine helicopters with the capacity to carry 4 to 10 passengers or lift thousands of pounds, such as the A-Star, the Bell 206 Jet Ranger, or the Eurocopter EC-145. Companies such as Petroleum Helicopters and Sundance use helicopters like these to carry passengers and cargo all over the United States and all over the world. Light utility helicopter pilots perform a wide range of duties. Tours, passenger transport to oil and gas platforms, emergency medical transport, and electronic news gathering are just some of the possibilities. Pilots who fly light utility helicopters at Petroleum Helicopters could expect a salary similar to those flying the high-end helicopters, starting out around $55,000 to $60,000 and topping out around $75,000. This is higher than your average light utility turbine helicopter job, which would typically start out around $35,000. The requirements to become a regional airline pilot or light utility helicopter pilot vary depending on the company. Most jobs require about 1,500 hours of total flight time. For regional airline pilots, several hundred hours of experience flying multi-engine airplanes is required. For most airplane jobs, a 2-year degree is required and a 4-year degree is preferred. Most helicopter jobs do not require either a 2-year or 4-year degree, although having a degree sets you apart from the competition. A good safe flying and driving record is required for jobs at this point as well. In order to gain that 1,500 hours of flight experience, most pilots work as a flight instructor. As a flight instructor, you might be flying a small single-engine piston aircraft such as the 4-seat Cessna 172 airplane or the 2-seat Robinson R-22 helicopter. Flight schools such as Hillsboro Aero Academy and other local companies use aircraft like these for flight training on local flights, typically within 25 to 50 miles of their home airport, but sometimes as far away as 200 to 300 miles away. A flight instructor typically works one-on-one with their students, setting up an individual schedule of ground and flight training based on the students' needs. Flight instructors work 5 to 6 days per week, and the majority of their flying is done during the day, although some night flying is required. A flight instructor position is like a paid internship, so while the pay is not high, averaging about $20,000 per year, a flight instructor is able to log all the flight time during which they're instructing. This is how pilots build that 1,500 hours of flight time. The requirements to become a flight instructor are a commercial pilot license and flight instructor certificate. Airplane pilots would have about 250 to 300 hours total flight time at this point, and helicopter pilots would have about 200 to 225 hours total flight time. During your flight training, maintaining a good safe flying record and a good attitude towards your fellow students and instructors is key to getting hired as a flight instructor. The number of hours required for a job beyond a flight instructor varies widely, as does the amount of time you might spend at each intermediate job. Some pilots spend only a few months as a regional airline pilot or light utility pilot before finding another opening, and some pilots end up spending their whole career at the first company they get hired on with. Although many airplane pilots are employed by regional airlines, there are other options for that first step of your aviation career. Some pilots choose to work for a cargo company such as Ameriflight, flying smaller twin-engine airplanes around the Northwest. As a corporate airplane pilot, you could work for a small company or a large company. The company would own their own aircraft, such as this relatively small Learjet, and you fly the company's employees wherever they need to go on a given day. The schedule, aircraft, and pay vary widely depending on the needs and size of the company. As an air ambulance pilot, you might be flying a light twin turboprop such as this Aero Commander for a company like Aero Air. As an airplane air ambulance pilot, you would be transporting passengers who need medical treatment to hospitals where they could be treated. You might also be carrying time-critical medical supplies such as donated blood or organs for transport. Career options for helicopter pilots at this step are far more varied. Some pilots work for a tour company, such as those based in Hawaii or near the Grand Canyon. Some pilots do firefighting or aerial survey or electronic news gathering. In most cases, a helicopter pilot could start in any one of these positions and move laterally at any time to gain the desired flight experience. The Aviation Science program at Portland Community College can help you make that first step, earning your FAA pilot certificates and your 2-year degree. There are several steps in getting admitted to PCC's Aviation Science program. First, you would need to be admitted to PCC in general. The admission form is available either in hard copy from any campus admissions office or online. It takes only a couple minutes to fill out, and once submitted, you will immediately be issued a PCC ID number, called a G number, and a PCC email address. Once you have been admitted to PCC, you will need to take a placement test called Compass. This test will give you scores for recommended placement into reading, math, and writing classes. The minimum placement scores for admission to the Aviation Science program are Math 65 or higher, Introductory Algebra Part 2, and Writing 121 or higher, English Composition. If you place into a math or writing class below Math 65 or Writing 121, you will need to successfully complete Math 60 and Writing 115 before being admitted to the Aviation Science program. If your placement score is close to the cutoff for placing into Math 65 or Writing 121, you should consider taking the class once for review, taking the CG 111 class, Study Skills for College Learning, or retaking the Compass test. You may retake it once for free. PCC also has a new student orientation about the college in general. The new student orientation is separate from this aviation science orientation and may be taken either in person or on one of the campuses or online. Applications for the Aviation Science program are due 8 weeks prior to the term you wish to start. Applications are available online at pcc.edu/fly and contain detailed instructions. Your application must be accompanied by a number of items, including the following: a cover letter describing your goals, a copy of an FAA-issued medical certificate, some sort of proof of confirmed funding for your first desired pilot license or rating, If you're receiving funding from the Veterans Administration, this could be a letter of eligibility. If you're receiving financial aid, this would include a copy of your financial aid award letter. And if you will be using a private loan, a copy of the loan approval letter is required. Every student will be required to prove citizenship, and if you're a non-U.S. citizen, you will need to include proof of having obtained clearance from the Transportation Security Administration with your application. If you are a U.S. citizen, you will need to be prepared to supply a copy of either an unexpired passport or birth certificate prior to beginning flight training. If you have prior college experience, transcripts from other colleges should be included with your aviation science application and submitted to PCC for evaluation of transfer credit. You will need to include your compass or other placement test results. You will also need to include a signed risk waiver. If any of these items is missing, your application may be rejected, so please review the application carefully before submitting. There are several orientations you will likely go through as you are admitted to PCC, and not all of them are the same. The Aviation Science Program orientation, this one, is specific to the Aviation Science Program and careers in aviation. PCC's new student orientation gives you more information about PCC in general and tells you how to access various PCC services. The distance learning orientation is required before taking any online class, of which the Aviation Science program has several, and gives you an overview of Desire to Learn, PCC's online learning management system. The distance learning orientation is taken online. If you utilize an on-campus computer resource center, you will also need to take a brief CRC orientation before using the computers. The CRC orientation is taken at a computer lab the first time you log on, and it only takes a few minutes. PCC offers a 2-year Associate of Applied Science degree in Aviation Science. There are several basic requirements for the associate degree in aviation science. Aviation-specific requirements include the core aviation courses on the degree checklist, a meteorology course, and for the helicopter degree, a basic physics course. Competency in Math 65 and Writing 121 must be demonstrated. 16 credits of general education are required. We'll talk in more detail about these in a minute. And to earn an associate's degree, you need at least 90 credits of 100 or 200 level classes. If, after going through all of the above classes, you are short of 90 credits, you can fill the gap from the list of aviation science approved electives. So basically, you take the number of credits you have in aviation core courses, add it to your math and writing classes, add in your 16 credits of general education, and add in enough approved elective courses to get to 90 credits. Then you can apply for an associate degree in aviation science. A list of aviation science approved electives can be found in the catalog and include classes ranging from economics to computer skills to business. The department also can approve courses that are not on this list on a case-by-case basis. A student would need to justify that the course applies to an aviation career in some way, or fulfills a requirement for a 4-year degree that you intend to pursue in the future. Classes that have been approved in the past include foreign languages, a limited amount of physical education, and advanced math or science classes. Ask the department for more details. There are restrictions on the 16 credits of general education courses you need to take. You must take at least one course in 3 different distribution areas: arts and humanities, social science, and math, science, and computer science. No more than 8 credit hours out of the 16 credits can be in one distribution area. Each distribution area has dozens of class options. If you intend to eventually transfer to a 4-year college, you can use the 16 credits of general education at PCC to satisfy some of the general education requirements for the 4-year college as well. PCC's associate degree transfers well to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, the Oregon Institute of Technology, and Southern Oregon University. Although each of these colleges has their own requirements, these are some good options you might consider when choosing your 16 credits of Gen Ed at PCC. Students should check with the desired transfer college for specific four-year degree requirements and recommendations for choosing general education classes. The general education classes are also your opportunity to try to have some fun and explore areas outside of aviation that you might not have had the chance to experience otherwise. Our program advisors can help you choose general education classes that will complement your associate degree in aviation and prepare you for a transfer to a four-year college. Contact Darcy Demers at the Southeast campus or Annette Murphy at the Rock Creek campus. These two advisors are recommended rather than any advisor in general because they are familiar with the requirements of the Aviation Science program and its associated transfer agreements. When you're done with your associate degree in aviation science, in addition to the two-year degree, you will also have your Federal Aviation Administration pilot license and flight instructor certificate. Ratings on these licenses and certificates will vary depending on whether you choose the airplane or helicopter degree. Your commercial pilot license will have either instrument and single and multi-engine land airplane ratings or an instrument helicopter rating. Your certified flight instructor certificate will also allow you to instruct in instrument conditions in either single or multi-engine airplanes or helicopters. With these licenses and ratings, you are qualified to begin working as a flight instructor, and students often begin working before finishing their two-year degree, continuing to take classes at PCC to finish the degree requirements. Your associate degree makes you a more well-rounded pilot than someone who just has their pilot license. The extra aviation courses provide more in-depth study into important areas, such as aerodynamics and aircraft systems, and the Gen Ed courses provide you with a broad range of experiences. The two-year degree is also a big step toward completing your four-year degree. Many pilots work on completing the coursework for their four-year degree while working as a flight instructor. Options for transferring PCC's two-year degree in aviation science include Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, the Oregon Institute of Technology, and Southern Oregon University. In general, an Associate of Applied Science degree does not transfer well to just any college because of the specific nature of the aviation courses. PCC's aviation degree does transfer well to these three institutions and may transfer to others as well. Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University offers classes in the Portland metro area and has staff available in their Portland office to answer questions about their four-year degree in Portland and transferring from PCC. Amongst other degrees, Embry-Riddle offers a Bachelor's of Science in Professional Aeronautics or Technical Management and a Master's degree in Aeronautical Science. Classes are available either online or in person, one night a week at the Portland International Airport. The Oregon Institute of Technology offers a Bachelor's of Applied Science in Technology. This degree is designed specifically for students who have completed an Associate of Applied Science degree in a field such as aviation, and who are seeking career advancement into management or in their technical career field. Courses are available online. Southern Oregon University offers a Bachelor's of Applied Science in Management. This program prepares students for managerial careers in technical fields and is designed for students who hold an Associate of Applied Science degree in a field such as aviation. Courses are available online or on campus in Medford, Oregon. Multnomah University offers a Bachelor's of Science in Mission Aviation Technology with an emphasis in either flying or aviation maintenance. This program is designed for students who desire a career in missionary or service work. Courses are available online and on campus in Portland, Oregon. There are two main types of aviation classes you would need to take at PCC: flight courses and aviation academic classes. The flight courses are classes you register for through PCC that represent a specific amount of flight and ground training, such as the private license. Flight labs are classes that accompany your flight classes and give you time and help to prepare for your upcoming flights. The aviation academic classes allow in-depth study into aviation-related areas, beyond what you would normally study if you were getting your pilot licenses outside of PCC. These include aerodynamics, advanced aircraft systems, aviation law and regulations, and more. Each FAA pilot license, rating, and certificate has a corresponding flight class you would register for through PCC. Registering for the flight class through PCC allows us to control enrollment within the program and make sure that you aren't registering for flight classes that are too far ahead of where you're at right now in your training. You pay normal tuition for the class as well as flight training fees that represent an estimate of the cost of the number of hours it would take you to finish that flight training. The flight lab is a co-requisite for every flight class, and so when you register for a flight class, you would also need to register for a flight lab. Although you register for the flight class through PCC, the flying is done through our contracted flight training provider, Hillsboro Aero Academy. They provide individual instruction, and you work one-on-one with a flight instructor to come up with an individualized schedule based on your availability to fly and desired pace. Hillsboro Aero Academy, formerly Hillsboro Aviation, is an FAA-approved Part 141 flight school. It was founded in 1980 and is one of the largest airplane and helicopter flight schools in the United States. Hillsboro Aero Academy is nationally accredited and has graduates who are flying professionally all over the world. Hillsboro Aero Academy has a large fleet of nearly 80 airplanes and helicopters, both for training and for commercial operations. They offer flight training at both the Hillsboro and Troutdale airports. Flight training fees associated with a flight class are paid directly to PCC. Payment is due 2 weeks prior to the start of the term. If you have not either paid your balance, paid a third of your balance and made a payment plan for the rest, or submitted your classes for certification to the VA, you will be deleted from all of your classes by 2 weeks prior to the start of the term. Several types of payment plans are available, and the business office or your advisor can give you more details. Once you have paid the flight training fee to PCC, that money is transferred to Hillsboro Aero Academy, and an account is created in your name. The first transfer typically takes place during the second week of the term, and after that, money is transferred from PCC to HAA several times during the term. Hillsboro Aero Academy must have received the flight training fees from PCC before you can begin flying. There are exceptions available for people receiving VA benefits under Chapter 33. Contact Hillsboro Aero Academy for more details. If you need flight or ground training beyond the amount of the flight training fee, you will need to pay that directly to Hillsboro Aero Academy. For example, if a flight class had a flight fee based on an estimate of 50 hours of training, and you had reached 50 hours of training without earning that license, you would need to pay for the remainder of your training out of pocket. If you wish to begin flight training before the flight fees have been transferred from PCC to Hillsboro Aero Academy, you are welcome to do so, but you must pay for each lesson out of pocket. Since the flight fees are considered a class fee, they are eligible for any type of financial assistance that would apply to regular college tuition and fees. Financial aid, collegiate loans, and veterans benefits all cover the flight training fees, including the private license. In addition, flight training fees count as expenses towards several tax credits. Check with your financial advisor for more details. The PCC flight training fees cover a specific amount of flight and ground training. These hours are not FAA minimums, but are an estimate based on what a good student could accomplish the class in. If you require additional training above and beyond these hours, you are responsible for paying that training out of pocket directly to Hillsboro Aero Academy. A grade for a flight class is earned based on completing the license, rating, or certificate. For example, earning your private pilot license, not just completing the number of flight hours the flight fee is based on. If you complete your flight class and did not use the full amount of the flight fee, a refund will be issued. Unused flight training fees will be returned to PCC by Hillsboro Aero Academy after a grade has been recorded at PCC and all flight training charges have been deducted. Generally, leftover funds originally provided by the VA will be returned to the VA. Funds originally provided by a loan will be returned to the lending institution, and personal funds will be sent back to the student. Tuition and non-flight training fees, such as technology fees, are not refundable after the first week. All refunds will occur at the end of the term in which you finish a flight class. A student flying full-time in a term with reasonable weather could expect to complete a flight class and earn a letter grade by the end of the term in which they register. If you do not finish by the end of the term, as long as you have been making a reasonable effort to schedule flights and make progress in your training, you will be given a Course in Progress or CIP grade. The CIP grade will remain in effect provided you are continuing to make an effort to finish your training for up to a year from the end of the term in which you register. You may finish your flight training at any point during that year, and a grade can be entered at that time. Once a year has passed, the CIP will automatically turn into an F and cannot be changed once you finish your flight training, though credit may eventually be obtained for the equivalent training. The flight labs are a co-requisite for the flight classes. The Level 1 and Level 2 flight labs, AVS 107 and AVS 207, consist of one 3-hour meeting per week. During this meeting, you would look ahead at your scheduled flight lessons for the upcoming week and study or otherwise prepare for those flights. You must be enrolled in either the Level 1 Flight Lab for beginning flight classes or Level 2 Flight Lab for more advanced flight classes. If you are either currently enrolled in a flight class or finishing up a CIP in a flight class from a previous term. An FAA Class 2 Medical Certificate or higher and Student Pilot Certificate are required with your application to the Aviation Science program. A Class 2 medical requires a very basic physical exam with a designated aviation medical examiner. The Student Pilot Certificate does not require any additional exam and is typically on the back of your medical certificate. The Student Pilot Certificate is required because your flight instructor will need to sign it eventually in order to allow you to go on solo flights. Our website has more information on the medical certificate. Although the Class 2 medical requires only a basic medical exam, if you have any condition you think might be an issue, or even just anything that the FAA might want more information on, we strongly encourage you to contact the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association before going to your medical exam. AOPA can give you more details on background information the FAA may require before issuing a medical certificate. If you know what information to bring with you, you may be able to get your medical even with prior medical conditions. However, if you don't bring the proper information, your medical certificate may be denied, and the process of appealing to get it back can take a long time. All students must be prepared to verify their citizenship at the time of application, and for non-U.S. citizens, the process is much more lengthy. The Transportation Security Administration requires that Hillsboro Aero Academy verify each student's citizenship before starting flight training. For U.S. citizens, proof of citizenship can be a current unexpired passport or an original birth certificate with a raised seal. These documents will only be examined and photocopied, and originals are not required to be submitted with the Aviation Science application. For non-U.S. citizens, citizenship is verified through the TSA and can take several months. Students should plan to contact Hillsboro Aero Academy several months before the application deadline for assistance on starting this process. The Associate of Applied Science degree is designed to be completed in 8 terms. Helicopter students would begin their flight training with the private license, move on to 2 terms of commercial training, which includes the instrument rating, and then finish with the flight instructor and instrument instructor certificates. Airplane students would begin with a private license, followed by the instrument rating, 2 terms of commercial training, and then several terms of flight instructor training. A class on 2 pilot crew operations is also required towards the end of the degree. The aviation academic courses are offered on a rolling basis on both campuses. Generally, we recommend taking Intro to Aviation before anything else, and then all of the 100-level courses in any order, and then all of the 200-level courses in any order. The 100-level aviation academic courses are Applied Aerodynamics, Aircraft Systems Airframe, Aircraft Systems Power Plant, and Pilot Human Factors and Safety. The 200-level aviation academic courses are Aviation Law and Regulations, Economics of Flight Operations, Aviation Careers, and Aviation Weather Services. An advisor can help you map out the best time to take general education and elective classes based on your schedule, desired time frame for the degree, and availability of classes. It isn't a good idea to overload yourself with coursework. Generally, for every credit hour you're registered for, you should expect 1 hour per week either in the classroom or in the cockpit. Then, for every one of those hours, you should expect to have 2 hours of homework or prep time. For example, if you are registered for 15 credits, you should expect to spend 15 hours every week either in the classroom or in the cockpit, and then allow for 30 additional hours of homework and prep time per week, for a total of 45 hours every week allotted to schooling. There's a reason this is considered a full-time class load. This is equivalent to the number of hours you'd spend at a full-time job. Many of our students do work at jobs, but just remember that those homework and prep hours are essential to your success in school. Learning takes time, and if you overload your schedule with too much stuff, your learning will suffer, your flight training will take longer, and ultimately you'll end up spending more money. The degree is designed to be finished in 8 terms, but some students take longer, and occasionally some students are able to finish in a shorter time frame. We encourage you to forecast and plan ahead to see how fast you can realistically finish the flight training. The more condensed your training is, the more efficient and less expensive it is. Be realistic with your time, however. A minimum of 4 to 5 flight lessons scheduled per week would allow you to theoretically complete each flight course in one term, but take into account the other demands on your time, such as work and family and other classes. The flight classes are available to register for every term, and the aviation academic classes are offered on a rolling basis, designed to allow you to take all of the classes within 8 terms while staying at one campus. Becoming a pilot is definitely a challenge. It takes a lot of studying and hard work, new skills you have to master, and it takes a significant amount of time and money. Being a pilot is lots of fun, though. You get involved with a community of friends who enjoy what they're doing and take pride in being able to do things well and safely. You'll get to do something real, something very visible, not just sit at a computer all day. Being a pilot is a very personally fulfilling occupation, and there are a number of great career options. As a certified flight instructor or commercial pilot, you have the opportunity to really take ownership and responsibility for your own actions. Flying is often a very independent endeavor, and the need to do your own planning and fly the aircraft yourself necessitates being able to take responsibility for yourself. As a pilot, you can also take pride in knowing that you're in a relatively small community of people and can do something that only a few people can do. Best of all, being a pilot is fun. The variety of experiences and people and aircraft are almost unequaled, and you'll have the best view of any office in the world.